Hello and welcome to Lorehammer Rock and Stone, my diggers. Today's episode, we're talking dwarves, some Leagues of Votann. I'm excited to crawl into a hole with you boys on this episode. Joining me, we got Gerald.
Hello, hello. I am a dwarf, and I am digging the hole.
Yes, sir. That's why you're here. The most qualified hole digger I know on the internet. We also got Nick.
Hello, all you grimdark lovers out there. It's a new year. Pleasure to be back, and I'm going to be here at diggying my hole.
Yeah, we got a fun dwarf episode today. It's been very interesting learning how the Votann kind of fit into 40k. It's the newest kind of faction that's been released, like big scale faction. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun learning about it. Lots of things I wouldn't have done, but isn't that always the case? Lots of things I'm like fucking rock and stone, my digger. Before we get to that episode, we'll just jump through some housekeeping. If you like the show, want to communicate with any of the hosts, or just hang out, show your painted minis, show your feet pick, whatever you're into, we got a channel for memes on the Discord. Go check it out. Yeah, there's a lot of different things going on. I've always been pretty active on there, thinking of different ways we can involve people. I think now people are talking about doing RPGs and stuff, but that's neither here nor there. Go join the Discord to get involved and keep up to date with what's happening there.
And you can also help us out by joining the Patreon, because Emperor Mark wants you to join the Imperial Tithe. So
It's
for
true.
only $2.50 per month. It's very true. For only $2.50 per month, you get access to ad-free versions of the show, and for $5 a month, you get access to the live stream where you get to see our beautiful faces. And I don't know about y'all, but that sounds like a pretty good deal to me. And even for our tech priests out there, God Emperor Mark could be so gracious enough to provide for all your needs.
Is that you bought yourself a toaster with your Lorehammer monies?
I got a toaster with my Christmas monies.
Nice. Your first girlfriend. How does it feel?
It feels fancy. I can't even say it with a straight face.
Do you give her sacred oil rites every afternoon?
Only the best, and you know
it. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad you got your toaster friend there.
And when I say the correct prayers, she buzzes.
Oh.
Okay. We're talking about dwarves. Tech priest face is coming off.
Yeah, and this is why you come join the live stream, so you can actually see what Gerald's up to in the background. No, Gerald, put the toaster down. I
always got some crazy shit going on. You know this.
Button those robes back up. Jeez, my man, we're on a live show right now.
There we go.
And speaking of which, on the Discord, I hear all the time, how do I get on the show? Join the Patreon. We do a live chat room at the end of the show. I mean, if you follow Slanesh, come on, seduce us a little bit. We like to ask questions back and forth. Definitely one of my most favorite segments. I love hearing from the community out there. So, yeah, come and join us.
Cool. All right, well, let's jump into this episode. I called it The Votann and Other Technologies. Do a quick little soft recap on where we left the Votann last. We learned about their origins, how they were in the galactic core, then they were cut off by warp storms, but made a very hardy group of people. Eventually the warp storms broke and they came out and now in the galaxy. That's the long short of it. Episode 110, I believe, is where we talk about this. And then the episode right after that, I think it's episode 111, we talk about the truths and society of the Votann. We talk a little bit more in this episode about the truths. They're pretty interesting, kind of just like, the code that all Votann follow. If ever you're not sure what to do, just look to those truths and they'll guide you. And we also learned about society, just how everything kind of integrates with each other. We learned about like their different guilds and mining corporations, and we learned about Ironkin and some of these little things. So that's kind of where we left off. Now we're going to get to probably, the most important part about the Votann, the Leagues of Votann, and that's the Votann. The ancestors represent the countless generations of kin who have lived and died before the present day, embodying the very foundation of the Leagues of Votann. To the kin, the ancestors are revered with near spiritual devotion. Their lives are guided by a singular purpose of honoring these forebears by striving to embody their ideals. exploring uncharted voids, witnessing the unknown, and embracing the dangers of battle and adventure. While the Leagues are largely secular, their profound respect for the ancestors has taken on deeply ritualistic and almost religious nature, forming the cornerstone of their culture and identity. Um, yeah, it's cool how much like they put into their ancestor worship and stuff. Very dwarven, very pretty stereotypical for dwarven stuff. Um, it would be different too, like than humans, where we're pretty short lived, and I might get to meet my great grandpa, but just imagine you actually got to meet your great 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 grandpa, or like how these long lived dwarves could meet many generations back before they even like are gone from the earth.
Yeah, it's crazy to even have like part of their knowledge passed down onto you from generation to generation.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
yeah, what
very
kind of things
interesting.
would they be able to tell you? This veneration is not merely symbolic. The Votann, the sentient machine intelligence at the heart of the Leagues, are imbued with the accumulated cerebral data of generations of deceased kin and their robotic counterparts, the Ironkin. This sacred process, known as the returning to the ancestors, has made the Votann true repositories of ancestral wisdom, earning them the title Ancestor Cores. These vast intelligences contain the collective experiences and knowledge of every kin and ironkin who has ever lived, a living tapestry of history and shapes, or history that shapes the destiny of the Leagues. What began as a practical custom, recycling the bodies and minds of the fallen for resources and information, has evolved over millennia into a solemn ritual. Kin believe that offering their bodies and minds to the Votann upon death enriches the ancestor cores, ensuring their legacy aids future generations. However, this sacred tradition, has also become a double edged sword. The sheer volume of accumulated data has overwhelmed the advanced mind's core of the Votann, creating challenges for the continued function. Yeah, so this operates very similar to a couple things already in 40K. You know, I think of obviously the Eldar and the Infinity Circuit and how they take their dead Eldar, put them in spirit stones, and then upload them to the Infinity Circuit. I
Mhm.
also picture Imperial Knights and kind of how their knight suits have almost that generational memory after night, and slowly evolves and changes the the AI, the programming, the machine spirit of the knight. But yeah, this is very similar to both those kind of technologies.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely has that kind of feel to it, especially as you were saying with the knight, how each like preceptor does the mind meld with the knight, and then kind of takes on a little bit of a personality. But yeah, has that feel to it.
Yeah.
Mhm. I was thinking too of like that, just that idea of regather, reuse, kind of like corpse starts almost.
Yeah, that was a fun line. Like at first it was a practical thing, but then eventually it was slowly turned into ritualistic. You know, after a couple generations, like why do we do it in this order again? Come on, old Gus said so. Let's just believe him and carry on. And yeah, it just warps into something crazy over 10,000 years.
How much of the Imperium do you think is just built on traditions like that? Like one guy started doing it, then the next guy, and then now you're questioning why do you do it? Oh, here's a bolt around to the head because you questioned it.
That is the bedrock of the Imperium, those kind of jobs.
Hmm. I mean, if you want to ask what's built on traditions, look no further than the Mechanicus.
The desire to live up to the ideals of the ancestor drives kin oathbands to seek wisdom and experience through service as mercenaries in the wars of other starfaring races. By fighting in foreign conflicts, the kin not only hone their skills but also gather vital intelligence and potential adversaries and discover hidden troves of resources. These hard earned lessons are then returned to their kindred, enriching the ancestors and ensuring the survival of their people. Yet, the tradition of returning to the ancestors is also the foundation for the League's harsh punishment. For crimes such as magnitude as murder, wanton waste, or catastrophic failure, the sentence is exile, a fate considered worse than death. I love that, the wanton waste. We learned about the kin and how the biggest enemy that they have is the void, and there is no want in the void, there is no waste in the void. And yeah, it's funny, that's a capital punishment. Those cast out are stripped of their name and denied the honor of joining the ancestors. Their identities are marked in the Votann, ensuring no other kindred or league will accept them. To the kin, this punishment carries an honor beyond comprehension. Denied the chance to contribute to the Ancestor Cores, the exiled ones are condemned to a life of irrelevance, their existence rendered meaningless. Kin wisdom holds that it would be better never to have been born than to face such a fate. The threat of exile alone is enough to deter all but the most heinous crimes, instilling a reverent fear that transcends any corporal punishment or moral doctrine. In the unyielding quest to honor the ancestors, the kin weave together tradition, duty, and practicality, forming a grim and solemn legacy that binds their present to the eternal wisdom of the past. So I wonder right away, do all kin pretty much make it back to the ancestor core if possible? Like, that's pretty much the end goal of all of them, unless you die on a
Mhm.
battlefield and they can't like recover your body.
Yep. That was the main point in the Votann book, The High Call's Oath, that just came out a couple months ago. So it was a high call from his oath band that had died in battle, but he couldn't be recovered. So then, like, all of his duties and everything went over to the next person in line, and that's what the main part of the story is about.
Cool. Okay.
Now, to be uploaded into the Ancestor Core, can you do it if the person's dead, or is it like when they're on the verge of death?
Yeah, that's a good question. If you have to catch like
Mm.
that spark of life or whatever, or if a corpse will be enough.
Yeah.
I have the codex on hand, so I can look over it while we're discussing more stuff. But
Sure. I was
let's see if
also
I can
curious
find it.
too. Do we have any sort of number on how many Ancestor Cores are out there?
Let me see here. From what I can see here, there's not an exact number. For all this, some Votann have fallen into predation of foes, much to the shame and sorrow of the kin. The 500 Years' War was triggered when the orcs of the Wa, Morbach, overran the hold of Auriac's Iron Gate kindred and tore apart the Ancestor Core within. The Grand Orion Compacts were the most widespread grudge in recorded history for the death of their Votann, hurling all of their might against Morbach's empire of scrap for more than 5 centuries, until the last orc was slain and the insult answered. So there's it probably fluctuates because that was the other part of the High Call's Oath, was there was a supposedly a lost Votann in somewhere
Mhm.
in the galactic core that they were trying to find and locate. So I won't spoil
Yeah,
what happens, but that was part of their main mission.
yeah, cool. I think there's basically it's one of those things. As many as the plot needs, there's going to be that many
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Sure.
Votans.
And if
But it also
Mhm.
allows you to kind of make your own little Votan. It's big
Yeah.
enough for that kind of category where you make your own with its own little
Mhm.
personality of grudges and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Just like homebrewing your own Satan shards or dynasties or something like that. So works very
Yeah.
similar. The exile process kind of makes me think a little bit of like your old school Catholic or even your ancient Greek excommunication,
Yeah.
Yeah, I
because
could
back
definitely see
then,
that.
for those that don't know, back then the act of worship was considered your most sacred duty to your god or whatever. So if you were excommunicated, you were not allowed to attend services, to attend mass, or to attend any kind of ritual. So you cannot partake in that worship. So that was akin to that was what they called atheism back then. Was not that you didn't believe, but you were actively not worshiping, which that also was basically treated as a fate worse than death. So.
Yeah. Ostracized from the community and stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so crazy that that's like, um, the kin, they know that one day they're going to be the ancestors for the next generation. So they go out and they go take on the hardest challenges they can find, gain the most experience in the most variety of areas, and then they know at the end of their life it's all going to get passed on. Yeah, to be stripped of that. Whew.
It'd be rough. I mean, they are such a tight knit community because they're out there in the galactic void that to be shoved out and not be able to be a part of that would be awful.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy too that like that's such a punishment that it pretty well deters all crime. Crime still does happen, but like doesn't seem like it's a big issue. The Imperium need a similar kind of Uh, the Arbites are good, but they're just not as useful. They one too many knees are broken when the Arbites are involved.
The
Yeah, I think
Imperium's
there's a
just
better
too big
way.
for its own good.
Defund the Arbites. Come on.
Oh no. Purge made an interesting comment. I just want to point out humans at one point did practice ancestral worship in the Western world, and there are still pockets of it in the modern world today. So,
Yeah, for sure.
very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very interesting. Speaking of ancestors, we have the first ancestors. So, here we go. The first ancestors are enigmatic figures shrouded in myth and legend, credited with the creation of kin society and the establishment of the first Leagues of Votann countless Terran millennia ago. Their legacy endures as both the foundation of kin tradition and an enduring mystery of their origins. While it is conceivable that the Ancestor Cores hold records of all kin history dating back to their inception, such knowledge, if it exists, remains irretrievably buried beneath millennia of accumulated data. Even the pragmatic and meticulous kin acknowledge that their ancestral histories fade into the realm of allegory and myth. Despite this, the kin's reverence for their origins remain unwavering, grounded in tradition rather than definitive fact. The leagues themselves are named in honor of the mythical entity known as the Votann, often referred to as the primal ancestors, or the Gilded One, or the Stone Mind. Kin myths differ wildly in their depictions of Votann. Some portray it as a singular golden figure or a stone-carved visage, while others suggest it was a collective of luminous beings. According to some tales, Votann forged the first crucibles, elevated the kin, and sent them forth into the void, only for oceans of fire and flesh to rise against them. In other accounts, the Votann is the eldest and wisest of the first ancestors. Shadowy presences depicted in varied forms, humanoid and otherwise, when they are represented at all.
Very cool. I wonder about the Votann and its very early origins. Before any of the kin had been killed and put inside, was it kind of just your typical AI supercomputer? Did they even realize that when they put their kin inside that they would start like absorbing it in the way that in the way it does? These are all kind of things I was thinking about. How intentional was this design?
Yeah, I love the theory that they are generational spaceships from our not too far future. And it's just like these AI cores sent out to, keep these people alive in the galactic void as they're colonizing planets and mining
Yeah,
and doing all this stuff. And then they've just evolved and become so corrupted that they've become something else entirely.
yeah.
Rest assured, I actually have a passage from the Codex itself. In truth, the Votann can be best described as ancient machine intelligences so complex and powerful as to be nigh on supernatural. Their self-organized data stacks and info cores
Quantum.
hold all the quantum info cores hold all the information a race might need to thrive in the depths of space. Weapon specifications, STCs, scientific and philosophical learnings, genealogical data, military and survival theory, and strategy. These are just parts of the wealth of lore buried within the machine minds of the Votann. So bright do their artificial intellects shine that kin voidfarers are even able to use them as localized beacons within the warp. Herein lies the other reason the kin do not speak of the Votann to outsiders. In a dark and ignorant age, few treasures are as precious or dangerous as knowledge.
Yeah, that's pretty rowdy.
Mm-hmm.
So they're basically super machines, so powerful they're almost gods, pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Not warp space gods, but real space gods.
I imagine with the early humans that traveled to the galactic core, like you needed something of this scale to be able to function safely and do what you need to do.
Yeah,
Yeah, it kind of gives me the 2001 A Space Odyssey vibe with
Mm-hmm.
Hal and how he kind of becomes corrupted and becomes his own thing. But yeah, very similar feel to it.
cool.
I'd say that's kind of the one thing too that I'm not like a huge fan of with the Votan is that AI is pretty much outlawed in the Imperium because of the Men of Iron, but they're somehow allowed here. It's strange.
Yeah, it's just like we have 1,000 doomsday AI horror stories. But the Votan got the one good ending. It seems like, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hmm. I think it's because of the good ending. They never really had their own Men of Iron situation. So,
Yeah. Being in the
but it's
Galactic
also
Core, maybe they didn't even get there. Like the Men of
probably.
Iron didn't. So
I heard a very interesting theory. I can't remember where I read it, but someone somewhere speculated like the first Men of Iron incident was because there was an AI machine that was demon possessed or
oh,
chaos
that's
possessed or
interesting.
whatever. Hmm.
I
Okay.
mean, yeah, that'd be pretty interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
So it seems
Yeah, a
chaos had their
mechanical
own.
player would say that a machine was always good. It was just
Yeah, I
right,
thought that
right.
was kind of interesting. So
Yeah.
back to our notes. The kin, true to their practical nature, accept the contradictions and allegorical nature of their myths without being consumed by them. Unlike humanity, the kin do not require faith as a defense against the unknown. They face the inexplicable with stoic realism, setting aside matters of ancient history unless they become directly relevant to their present concerns. However, the psychoactive kin known as Grimnir persist in interfacing with the ancestor cores, driven more by intellectual curiosity than existential need, seeking to uncover fragments of their long lost past. Among the kin, certain aspects of their ancient history are held as undeniable truths, known as the first truths. These truths form the bedrock of kin identity. It is a first truth that their forebears departed their homeworld, likely pre Imperial Terra during the Age of Technology, aboard vast sublight generational ships called Long March vessels. It is the first truth that the kin were a cloned people from the beginning, and that their robotic companions, the Iron Kin, had been integral to their society since its earliest days. It is the first truth that the first ancestors ventured into the stars as miners, prospectors, and void dredgers, tasked with harvesting the riches of the cosmos. When the first ancestors guided the kin into the perilous galactic core, they introduced stable, genetically engineered adaptations known as clone skines into the kin genetic pool. These clone skines were designed to fortify the kin against their harsh environment, enhancing their resilience, efficiency, and ability to defend themselves. The first ancestors remain central to the kin's understanding of themselves, a blend of myth, pragmatism, and reverence. Their story is not merely a tale of origins, but a testament to the enduring strength and adaptability of the kin in the face of an unforgiving galaxy.
First truths are super cool. They're so basic, you know, like we are not from this planet. We are from some planet. We don't know what planet it is, but we are from some planet. Good enough for
Mm-hmm.
them. You know, they're concepts and so like so vague, but at the same time gives them all that they need. What are we doing out in the galaxy? Well, we're here to mine, prospect, find riches, harvest some minerals. That's all the same thing, but that's what they're here to do.
Lorgar could have taken some notes from these guys with his search for the truth.
Yeah. So many truths, and all of them at first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that in 40K you don't really hear much about the galactic core, but this is kind of starting to give you a little bit more flavor in that section of space.
Yeah. Yeah, and like it's interesting even how these people came to be, where the original kind of colonizers, you know, used the clone skins to modify their people into the abhumans we
Mm-hmm.
kind of know now. They're not necessarily like natural evolution abhumans like Ogrins are. There's like that technology thrown in there, that little bit of magic almost.
Separates them from squats a little bit because weren't squats like the genetically uh,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
evolved because they were in these little narrow corridors and asteroids?
Yeah, exactly, and dense
Mm-hmm.
gravity planets and stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, it is interesting that little bit of a tweak or that little bit of a fix just to take them one step further, and it's through technology this time.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the Votann, shall we? The machine intelligence revered as the Votann, or Ancestor Cores, stand at the heart of kin society, regarded with a reverence that mirrors the veneration of gods among more spiritual species. These entities, both profound and enigmatic, are far more than mere machines. They are vast repositories of ancestral knowledge, semi-divine intelligences whose quantum inforces and data stacks hold the accumulated wisdom of generations. Part oracles, part gestalt embodiments of ancestral memories, and part self-aware supercomputers, the Votann are the axis upon which the kin's secular devotion turns. While the kin are a pragmatic and grounded people, their near religious deference to these ancient constructs is the closest they come to faith. To harm an ancestor core is an unthinkable sacrilege, one no league would tolerate unless absolutely unavoidable. For the kin and their synthetic counterparts, the Iron Kin, there is no greater duty than to defend the Votann, even at the cost of their lives. The bond between the kin and the ancestor cores is absolute, a mutual belonging that transcends worlds and is jealously guarded against the gaze of outsiders. Makes me wonder just how well they are defended because these ancestor cores, they're built onto like spacecraft, right? That the Votann use to travel the void and do their mining.
I think most of them are. I'll look it up if I'm
Yeah, sure, because yeah,
able
they're
to.
they're not really a planet-based race, if at all. They're not like doing much terraforming or anything, so I don't really see them residing in like a planet sanctuary or anything.
I'll do a good many of their of the leagues do have planets that they consider their holds. So
Okay.
it could stand the reason that like they started out as like part of a generational ship and then maybe they got transferred over like once they I guess made planet side and then uh created their main key holds or whatnot.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
does make me
Very
wonder
cool.
too just how big these ancestor cores are, like how much cogitators and data stacks they have to hold all this memory.
Yeah. Well,
oh
isn't
definitely.
yeah. All the ice worlds are just building these cores on just to keep them from cooling, using geothermal
Right.
cooling. Got to make sure the ancestor core is at a nice steady temperature, otherwise it rots right out the bottom.
In the 2016 Doom, there was actually a supercomputer on Mars that they kept near the poles or at close to absolute zero just because of the sheer temperatures of the processing unit of the
Interesting.
thing. I have a one artwork of one of the ancestor cores. Mark, I'm going to send it to you if you want to share the image in the chat.
That
But is
happened.
that how you get a paradise world? Is you just wait for the supercomputers to melt the polar ice caps, and then you have these beautiful aquatic land masses?
That'd be nice.
Purge ass. So the Votan are not suffering technology degradation like the Imperium.
Good question. They are.
In what
Sorry.
way?
So from what I was reading earlier in the codex, like because these things have been kept on for for thousands, if not tens of thousands of years, like the sheer amount of knowledge and data that's being put into these ancestor cores, it basically causing like a huge strain on the processing and the on the memory and the processing of it. So so they end up developing odd quirks kind of. So that's where you get that
Oh,
AI
interesting.
personality. That's where you get
Yeah.
the different leagues and their different goals and
Um.
wants or whatnot. So
Yeah. That is very interesting. That it does that. Now, is that necessarily degradation though? Like the heart of his question is more like, the Imperium is so backwards, it's all the
mhm.
rituals of just turning your
Hmm.
computer on. Like they're not anywhere near that level, and in fact, like they have rail rifle technology and some pretty good
Mhm.
technology overall. So yeah, while like the Votan are kind of getting a little
Yeah,
slow, I don't know if the race itself is, if that makes sense.
Kind of like rampant.
yeah. Some of their weapons definitely give me slight Tau
Hmm.
vibes, like the rail rifle you were talking
Yeah.
Hmm.
about.
And they have superior plasma technology
Yeah,
from what I've read too.
Yeah.
sure. But do you guys remember back in the day when you had a hard drive in your computer and you used to have to defrag
Oh
it
gosh.
to once it started getting like
Hmm.
out of
Yeah.
sequence?
Or like back in like Windows 97 days or whatever where you're trying to download something and then it'll give you a time frame of how long it'll take to download and then sometimes it'll go like
Hmm.
37 years until completion.
Yes. And I'm still waiting on a couple of those to this day, but I'll get it. I'll get my copy of that movie.
Haven't turned your computer off in 10,000
Nope.
days. All right. By ancient custom, the kin do not speak openly of the Votan. The name may be uttered, but its true meaning is withheld, allowing other species to speculate or misunderstand. This secrecy is partly born of prudence. Non kin, blinded by superstition, might misconstrue these AI constructs as gods, demons, or worse. In truth, the Votan are neither divine nor infernal, but represent a technological pinnacle so advanced it teeters on the edge of the supernatural. Their minds harbor an unfathomable wealth of data, designs for weapons, standard template constructs, scientific breakthroughs, psychological treaties, and military doctrines, all tools necessary for survival and prosperity in the void. The Votan's brilliance extends even into the warp, where their artificial intellects emit localized signals that kin voidfarers used as navigational beacons. In a galaxy where the Emperor's Astronomicon is the primary guide through the Imperium, this capability is a treasure of incalculable worth. Yet it is also perilous, for in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, knowledge is as dangerous as it is precious. This duality compels the kin to guide the Votan secrets with unyielding vigilance. Tragically, the wisdom of the Ancestor Cores is not inexhaustible. Over millennia, the Votan have faced challenges their creators likely never anticipated. Designed for a specific purpose, they have been forced to endure the ravages of time and adapt to ever evolving needs of the kin. Their vast mental storehouses, filled with catalog knowledge, are now perilously overburdened. As they evolve to answer increasingly complex questions, they have developed behavioral quirks that resemble rudimentary personalities. Some responses, once swift and precise, now take centuries of deliberation, while other vital information has been lost or buried underneath layers of redundant data. Yeah, I mean, could you imagine you type in some sort of keyword and as you were saying, where it says done in 37 years, now it's saying, oh, it'll be done in a
There are
century.
2 billion files on that topic. Pulling up now. It's like, yeah, like you could imagine such
Um,
basic interactions like how to cook an egg, but everyone cooks it slightly different. So it's like to pull up that file,
Mhm.
it just is a nightmare. Just billions of useless things about it.
You ask it a question and it just gives you some vague metaphor that you have to go in and like deeply analyze, and you are so far off topic that it doesn't even matter anymore.
um, One crazy thing I just learned about the Votan is that they kind of have their own Astronomicon light device, but through technology, where they have the artificial intelligence of the AI emitting localized signals that the kin voidfarers can use as navigational beacons. Um, I don't know how that fully works because it's all just pseudoscience, but it's pretty cool that they're able to kind of transmit some type of lock and on point across the galaxy.
If only they gave that to the rest of the Imperium, and then maybe the Emperor can get off the Golden
Yeah, no,
Throne.
that's a treasure of incalculable worth. Never will they share it.
and besides, if the Imperium does that, they'd be dealing with Xenos, and we shall suffer not the Xenos to live.
What are you, a heretic? Oh, well, the Votan's cognitive decline is a grim reality. Day by day, they grow more ponderous, their once infallible logic ensnared by their own complexity. Some have become mercurial, this wisdom clouded by self generated God, I'm going to struggle on that word. Obsfu-
Ob-
Gerald, will you help me with that word, please?
Obfuscations.
Thank you so much. Again, I'm in learning Low Gothic with Trevor Buzek on the side now. So, uh, yet despite this sentience, the ancestor cores remain sacred to the kin, a fading light of guidance in a galaxy shrouded in darkness. To the kin, the Votan are not merely machines; they are enduring souls of their people, worthy of devotion until their final cogitators fall
Mm.
silent.
Yeah, and I guess that will happen eventually where these machines will break. It's going to get overloaded or something's going to happen, and it's not as fallible as or it's more fallible than like the Infinity Circuit, which seems like if left alone and not attacked or destroyed and like just maintained, seems pretty good. Seems to be pretty useful.
Perch actually says in chat, kind of like rampancy and Halo. And if I remember right, rampancy is where they pretty much think themselves
Yeah.
to death, the AI. But I mean, I guess I can kind of see that where they're just so overburdened that they eventually just shut
Mhm.
down because they can't
Yeah,
compute
yeah,
anymore.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, in Halo, they kind of had their ways of either getting around it, but like the most common way to deal with it was just delete.
Delete.
Yeah. Well, I think Cortana was the only one that was able to survive rampancy. I can't think of another example of
That
an
was a
AI in that.
very special
But
circumstance, but that
anyway,
involves like Forerunner technology, and this isn't a Halo lore podcast, so
yeah, yep. No, 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 no.
Yeah, that's such a funny thing. Like, yeah, the computer just gets overloaded, so it decides to just start deleting files and it programs. Then it finally deletes something useful, and then the whole machine's fucked. Deletes that one line of code needed, and everything else is messed up now. Returning to the ancestors. The cultural practices of the kin, paradoxically, may have played a role in the slow decline of the ancestors' cores. Entrusted with immense responsibilities, the Votann regulate the genomic data necessary for breeding each new generation of kin, a task that has grown increasingly burdensome to the kin population that has swelled across the millennia. Even more taxing, the Votann also bear the accumulated cerebral mapping of countless generations of deceased kin and iron kin, a tradition that has overwhelmed even their hyper advanced processing capabilities. This practice, once purely pragmatic, arose across from the arose from the same utilitarian ethos that saw the fallen recycled for nutrients and materials. Over time, however, it has taken on the weight of ritual and spiritual significance. What began as an efficient custom has transformed into an act of reverence, a sacred offering of memories and experiences to the ancestor cores. Yet this veneration has buried the Votann beneath mountains of redundant and overlapping data, testing the limits of their godlike intelligences. For the kin, the desire to rejoin the ancestors after death is a cornerstone of their culture. Bodies and minds are offered to the Votann in a hope that their collected wisdom will enrich these machine minds and guide future generations. This belief also drives the kin to live boldly, seeking to honor their lineage. They illuminate uncharted regions of the galaxy, witness wonders unknown to their forebears, and engage in wars and adventures with fervor, all to ensure their contributions to the ancestors are worthy. Yeah, this is so crazy how this happens. Like, they just live this whole life because their afterlife is in this machine, I guess.
I see the way I imagine it when they're getting uploaded is that this ancient Votan comes up to you and he's got one of those brain jacks from the Matrix and he just shoves it in the top of your head and downloads your entire brain into
Yeah,
this machine.
oh
very
man.
nice. Very aggressive feeling for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, you're probably on your last
At
legs
least pull my
anyway.
beard and
It's
take me out to
goodness.
dinner first. Fuck.
Not the
Yeah, it
beard.
definitely
Don't
it
mind,
seems definitely like
don't mind me. I'm gonna penetrate you with a shiny bit of metal, and we're gonna upload your brain, along with the brain of the rest of our ancestors.
very rapey vibe. I don't want that. For the kin, the desire to rejoin the ancestors after death is a cornerstone of their culture. Um, Bodies and minds, I think I read that one. So yeah, we did. The ethos is a powerful motivator for oath bands who journey across the stars to fight as mercenaries in the conflicts of other species. These campaigns allow the kin to gain hard-won experience, uncover invaluable intelligence on threats and resources, and the return home as seasoned veterans. Their exploits enrich the collective memory of their people, ensuring that every life lost or lesson learned serves the greater good. Yet the kin's devotion to the ancestors also informs their harshest punishment, the exile. Among the kindreds, incarceration is considered wasteful. For those who commit the gravest transgressions, murder, egregious waste, or catastrophic failure, such individuals are banished, their names given to the Votann to mark them as failures. This act severs not only from their kindred, but also from the ancestors themselves, barring them from everything ever rejoining the collective. To the kin, this is horror beyond death. A life unremembered by the ancestors is a life rendered utterly meaningless. It's so crazy, man, that even like when it comes to prisoner management, they're like, feeding them 3 square meals a day, that's a waste. So we're not going to have prisoners. It's you cause too much of
Yeah.
a problem, you're going to get jettisoned. Like,
Yeah, it's crazy too how legacy is everything to the Votan. I mean, Even like our lives nowadays, I mean, you want to be remembered once you're gone, and a lot of people do, and I think that's why they undertake some of the things
Yeah.
they do. I mean, you want to end up in the history books, or do you want to just be the average person that your children might remember, but then you're forgotten over time?
Yeah, unfortunately, to get
Mhm.
truly famous, I think you have to do something awful. You guys wanna go rob a bunch of banks? Not awful enough, unfortunately, so the specter of exile is a powerful deterrent, instilling a rare dread in people otherwise unshaken by the galaxy's terrors. The kin say it is better never to have lived than to face such a fate. Where the fire and brimstone creeds or the corporal punishment might fail, the unthinkable prospect of exile ensures order. For the kin, the fear of being forgotten or of being denied the external embrace of the ancestors is ultimate motivator to uphold their sacred duty and to honor their place within the great cycle of life and memory. Now, what's crazy too is okay, so we got the kin who are clones essentially. Um, Sounds like they have a whole bunch of samples, so it's not like they're cloning. It's not like Star Wars where they're cloning the Jango Fett over and over. They're taking a bunch of different clone
Mhm.
samples and making a mix of it all. But they're cloning themselves that way. Then when they die, they essentially clone themselves in the computer to then tell their clone selves how to live. So then those clone selves may go on to upload into the computer and tell their clone selves how to live. It's
Mhm.
quite the system.
And then you ask all those clone selves a simple question, they all debate, and then they get back to you with the answer from their
Oh
clone selves.
Mhm.
god. I knew the whole time, turns out. Clone self mark.
It's like a weird
Yeah,
form of genetic memory, kind of that they're trying to pull off.
yeah.
Mhm. Can you upload any memories into a new kin cloned body? Or is it just once they've lived, then they go
Uh,
into the
I haven't
ancestor
found
core?
anything in the codex, but I know Collins' Cold Open Stories. A few writers have pitched in a few stories, and then one such story was a particular kin host trying to do that exact thing, where you try to clone
Mm,
memories and bring it back in the same person. One story dealt with an actual kin doing that, and another one dealt with an iron kin. So you get to see from two different perspectives.
Yeah,
But
that's
again,
interesting.
that's
but
really
that's nothing.
interesting.
That's
Yeah.
nothing GW official. So take it with a grain of salt.
Sure, sure. Could you imagine like you're good at mining, but maybe not the greatest, and then you die, you put your memory into the ancestor core, that knowledge that you had goes into your cloned relative, and then they get better, and then it's like to become
Mhm.
the best at something, they're re-uploading all
Yeah,
these memories.
I'd say that's feasible. I mean,
Sure.
with what they have going on.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, and like they do have the ability to transfer memories and stuff into Ironkin, some type of form of memories and whatever, to give them some personality and stuff. So yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
What a weird thought.
Oh, we're going down a weird rabbit hole. My brain's
Yeah.
exploding.
just another Tuesday in 40K.
All these short bearded people keep reproducing with themselves. They're just popping onto holes in the ground. They're just they're pretty
I,
neat that way.
I can make a really dirty joke right
Are
now,
there any
but I'm
female
not going
kin?
to. Yes, there is. So, so speaking of kin, there's you got different tiers of kin, and Mark and Nick have brought it up before, but the Grimnir, that we're talking about, the Grimnir, or the Grimnir and the Thanes. Sorry. The Grimnir, or living ancestors, stand as the closest link between the kin and the sacred Votann. Chief among them is the Lord Grimnir, who serves as the voice of their order within the kindred's hearthspake and on the Votannic Council of the kin host. Their solemn duty is to petition the Ancestor Cores for their wisdom, guidance, interpreting the cryptic responses they receive. This sacred task is carried out with the enigmatic technological sanctuaries known as the Thanes. And in the High Cause Oath book, a big deal is made about the Votannic Council and then the Grimnir speaking to the Votann, because even though one High Call has died and there is an appointed successor, it still has to be voted on and agreed upon by the Votannic Council, and that's a whole lot of bureaucracy and
Whole lot of
Hyper
zeros and ones going to that one.
whole lot of zeros and ones, and a whole lot of hyper capitalism, if you can believe it.
That's so
That's
funny.
like the other. That's the other grim dark of the or that they're trying to do with the leagues is like you got the Votann who are kind of sort of degrading a little bit, but you have like this hyper exploitative capitalism going on with them too, with their mining and whatnot. So,
Yeah. Uh, People live
Yeah.
on that planet. You can't just mine it from underneath them. Yes, we can. Yes, we
absolutely.
can.
Says
If it's
who?
under the ground, it's free.
Yeah, the Votan, the Votan Council said so. That's such a funny room. Like, I just picture like a Zoom meeting with 10 different like blank icons popped up, and all these Votan are just talking to themselves. And they got like the one Grimnir who's actually alive, who's just kind of watching it, like not able to say anything really, as these computers just 0 1 at each other.
Every kinhold is anchored by a fane, a space of profound stillness and ancient devices. As it as its heart lies at its heart lies a labyrinth of intricate machinery, part altar, part cogitator interface. These constructs, it is said, once served solely as nodes for the swift transmission of Votanic wisdom between the voidcraft of the kin's ancient long-marched mining fleets. While they retain this practical function, the fanes have evolved far beyond their original purpose. They become sanctified spaces, places where the kin stand under the direct gaze of their ancestors, enveloped in the solemn presence of the Votann. The Fanes hold a revered place in kin culture, almost akin to the temples of other species. Though devoid of mysticism, here the tangible and the spiritual converge. Remarkably, through technological processes even the kin cannot fully comprehend, there have been rare instances where the Fanes have achieved self awareness, ascending to join the ranks of the Votann themselves. Such events are celebrated with immense honor, marking a profound moment in the history of the kindred who witnessed them. However, the Fanes also serve as a stark reminder of the fragility of the Votann. In recent centuries, some of these revered ancestor cores have deteriorated, their once infinite intellects diminished to little more than Fanes themselves. To the kin, such a fall is an unparalleled tragedy. Entire alliances like the Capellan League or the faltering Baelor Atoll conglomerate have endured prolonged periods of mourning after the loss of their ancestor cores. These declines are grim reminders of the inexorable passage of time and the burden borne by even the most divine of machine minds. Within the heavy silence of the Fanes, the kin could confront the duality of their relationship with the Votann, the boundless honor of their wisdom and the unyielding sorrow of their decline. It is a space where reverence meets pragmatism, and the enduring legacy of the ancestors remains etched into the very fabric of kin existence.
Yeah, I just wonder what happens, like, if one of these ancestor cores gets lost over computer. Basically, it's no more. The dwarves mourn for 7 days. They have their feasts, they have their drinks, and after those 7 days, then what? Do they try to find another one? But like, you can't replace your ancestor core. Like, let's say you did go out and find another one the next day, and you're like, that's not my grandpappy and my family and my kin scheme. Like, do you think they would try to even take up a different core, or just kind of like drift now into obscurity?
A good question. If all of the cores eventually degrade and are no longer a thing, are the Votann themselves, the kin, even going to be able to be made anymore?
Yeah,
Because all the
Mm-hmm.
knowledge of their cloning selves are in these
yeah,
cores. Yeah.
yeah, for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
I think
Yeah,
there's
and
another grimdark aspect to all
Mm.
this.
it's slowly just gonna be bad.
That eventually there'll be one, and then there'll
Yeah.
be
There
none.
can be only one.
Then all the kin start coming out just a little weirder. First, it's kind of just buck teeth, and then eventually, next generation, it's a third arm and a tail. And that's when you know you got infected by gene stealer cultists.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah. Oh, maybe this is some weird time spatial segue into how the Tyranid are made. They're just like slowly wrong,
Yeah,
and then yeah, next thing you know, you've got a Hormigaunt just chasing you all over the
yeah,
place.
that's true. I read that in the Wikipedia. It's true.
Well, let's talk a little bit about some of these lost ancestor cores then. The Votann, the sacred ancestor cores, are safeguarded by every technological marvel and strategic orifice the king can devise. So, yeah, that kind of feeds into my question a little bit earlier about how these are guarded if they're on their ships. Uh, Einhart Heath guards, clad in impenetrable armor and towering war engines, stand vigilant over their revered machines. Some Votann rest in fortified vaults, hidden deep beneath the layers of reinforced barriers and powerful force fields with unassailable strongholds. Others, to ensure their security, are carried aboard the mightiest flagships of their respective leagues, kept perpetually on the move. Despite these formidable precautions, the Votann are not invulnerable. There are tales of loss that weigh heavily on the hearts of the kin, shrouded in shame and grief. One such calamity was the desecration of the Ancestor Core of the Orakaya Iron Gate kindred, overrun by the Orcs' rampage in the 500 Years' War. The brutal Wa Morbek tore apart the core, igniting the Grand Orient Compact's most widespread grudge in recorded history. For more than 5 Terran centuries, the kin waged relentless war against warlord Morbok's empire of scrap, obliterating every last orc to avenge the fallen Votann and answer their unbearable insult. I mean, yeah, you kill generations of ancestral memories. I mean, and does that mean that all knowledge on how this specific kin are made has just been
Yeah,
lost?
man, I imagine all of that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, like, yeah, they went on this fucking badass,
Phew.
war and, wiped out the empire, but like I said, then what? Now they're all just standing around and like, "We
Yeah,
still don't have
Mhm.
exactly.
a core at the end of this," like, fuck. Yeah.
I'm I'm sure there are a bunch of different variations of the cloning process, especially between each
Mhm.
Votann, but sure, like obviously they all fall under like a same general
Yeah.
shape and makeup. So I don't think it would be that hard for them to just be absorbed into either another league or adopt another Votann and then provide
Sure.
their template for the clone skyne process. But that's
Yeah.
just me being very hopeful for them.
Yeah, very helpful. But, like, even if that happens and it's perfect, it's still not your ancestors. You're now starting
Yeah.
a whole new chain,
No.
you know?
Gerald, don't you know this is not
Mhm.
Lighthammer? This is
Come on.
Warhammer. Needs to be a little
We're
dark.
we're we're tr- we're trying here. I'm listing up things that make the Votann grimdark now.
Yeah.
Yeah, yet even this pales beside the tragedy of the Irmbug Egnir block. This small alliance of kindred stood in the path of a tendril of Hive Fleet Leviathan, their fate sealed as the Tyranids encircled their hold world. Beneath its surface rested their sacred Votann, a machine mind that swore to protect. Knowing retreat was impossible, the kin fought with ferocious resolve, every warrior sacrificing themselves to deny their bodies to the swarm. Despite their courage, the Tyranids ignored the Votann entirely, leaving it entombed and abandoned on the now lifeless dead
Poof.
world. The true agony of the Ernberg Agnir sacrifice was revealed in the aftermath. The anguish of countless kin who had fought, died, and returned to their ancestors flooded into the core, overwhelming its once pristine intellect. The accumulation of grief and loss drove the Votann insane, transforming it into the mad core, a tortured mind adrift in the void. To this day, its faltering beacon casts a spectral warning, and no ship of the kin dares to approach the haunted remnants of its resting place. These grim tales stand as sober reminders of the kin's unyielding devotion to their ancestors and immense cost of protecting the Votann. They serve not only as testaments to their resilience, but also as enduring lessons in the fragility of even the most sacred and revered among their creations.
So we get another little piece of the puzzle in this one, the Aimberg and Gnier block. When they die, it sounds like they get uploaded into the Ancestor Core almost automatically. Doesn't matter, like it doesn't sound like they were dragged back there, then uploaded. Sounds like there's almost like a Wi-Fi
Mhm.
link. You know, maybe they got like a little nodulator chip in their brain that is able to just transfer that thing, shoot it back home.
Ooh, interesting. I mean, yeah, reading this, yeah, I would agree with you. Because they're all dead and they're all flooded at once. So it, I wonder. I don't have any
Yeah,
ideas.
pretty cool. Um, You know, these are one of
Yeah.
those races where, like, you can chalk a lot of it up to just, well, they got technology for it. Like, very easy to
Mhm.
say, like, yeah, there's no way they don't have some type of advanced fucking brain scanning chip. If they can upload memories already, they got
Right.
Wi-Fi. Come on, like,
It's space magic
yeah,
technology.
very
Yeah.
cool.
What's a Bluetooth?
Is that a lucky orc?
So, I wonder though with this core, is there something special about it that the Tyranid didn't want to break it down because they consume everything?
Yeah, like, they do take metals and irons and stuff, and maybe this just really wasn't
Mhm.
useful. Like, maybe there's too much gold and that might not be useful to them. But yeah, it just seems like there should have been
Mm.
some part in it that they would have taken. Well, I guess it got lucky. It's pretty cool how this was just like layered deep in the hold under all these cracks and like fortifications. I just picture like if you had a very industrious 40K race build Mines of Moria, how much more grand and how fortified that is with gun emplacements, and then thinking how crazy it'd be to just blow up whole caverns and lock tunnels behind rocks that then take hundreds of years to remove. But that's what these guys were up to on that planet to defend their iron ancestor
Mhm.
core.
Oh, yeah, and just how many miles deep you could dig
Yeah.
too. Moria's under the mountains, but could you imagine, like, a million Morias just miles down underneath of a
I
planet?
Just
can. I
Yeah,
like it.
crazy.
just don't dig too greedily and too deep. You don't know what you might wake up.
Bloodthirster.
Ooh.
A flaming bloodthirster.
Flaming bloodthirster. Cool. So that gives us pretty good understanding, I think, of kind of the Votann technology. We have a lot of questions still, like what actually, how do they get uploaded? Sure, those are just minor details. So, but we got this pretty cool picture of these machines that are able to absorb your memories and pass them on to the next generation, and you're able to achieve some type of immortality and communal service by doing this as well. So let's jump to other technologies that they have. Um, we'll talk about some shield generators, some psychic technologies. We'll talk about a couple different weapons too. So yeah, let's get into that. The technology of the Leagues of Votann is a reflection of their pragmaticism, precision, and relentless pursuit of excellence. Rooted in their ancient heritage, their technology blends the old and the new, with methods and materials that far surpass those of many other starfaring civilizations. The kin have mastered the art of crafting formidable weapons, advanced starships, and powerful defensive systems, all designed to endure and prevail in the harshest environments. Their void suits, for example, are reinforced with bastium alloy and equipped with thermogulatory thermoregulatory, yep, I know that word, okay, thermoregulatory underlayers, ensuring survival in the most hostile conditions, while their void armor incorporates magnaferrite weave and adamantium reinforcements for near impenetrable protection. Yeah, like this sounds like almost very Tau, where you can just make up some sci-fi sounding element, slap it together with some sci-fi sounding word, and that's their technology.
Yeah, to me, the Votann are such an amalgamation of, like, so many different races in
Mhm.
40K.
Yeah. Magma ferrite weave. The kin's warships are colossal constructs with rugged durability and formidable firepower, employing innovative propulsion systems and highly reliable warp drives to travel with unmatched precision. In addition, their integration of psychoactive technology, advanced power sources, and barrier tech, such as the wave field projectors, showcase their ability to manipulate the very fabric of reality and protect those forces from the most esoteric of threats. Whether it's their automated systems, servo assisted exo-armor, or the legendary graviton of Volkite weaponries they wield, the technology of the Leagues is not just functional, it is a symbol of their enduring legacy, a perfect blend of advanced science and unforgiving warfare. Every piece of their technology is a tool to ensure their survival and dominance of the kin, a testament to their unyielding will and their unmatched craftsmanship.
Yeah, even some of this stuff gives me such Necron feels as
Yeah,
well,
just
you know?
like so advanced that the technology is going to master any problem that they come across. Um, it would be
Mhm.
interesting to see what would happen if you take like a Tomb World engine AI and you let it talk to the Votan one, and they start getting along. Like, you know what? Why are we working with these
Ooh.
fucking mongoloids here? Let's let's just make our own little spot. Flesh free, AI
Or
only.
or what would it take to have one of those Tomb World AIs uh impersonate a Votann. So now that you have the kin
Ooh, yeah.
inadvertently doing the willing of the dynasty.
Yeah, they got some cool technology. They definitely have a better understanding of the warp than it seems most do, with ways to kind of. We'll get more into it, but they definitely
Mhm.
can understand and manipulate it and control it to some degree. Doesn't seem like they're as helpless like the Imperium is at times.
If only they shared some of this technology, the world could be a much better place. The galaxy could be a much
Hmm,
better
hmm.
place.
One would think. One would think. But
Why can't we all
so
get along?
why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends? But so with all the technology, you have the people. You got to have people that work with it and make it. So that's actually what the Brockir are for. So the Brockir are the master engineers, craftsmen, and artificers of the Leagues of Votann, counted among the most skilled techno artificers in the galaxy. Harnessing the vast material wealth of the galactic core and drawing upon the invaluable technical lore preserved within the Votann, they forge devices and technologies of unparalleled durability, reliability, and power. Through their craft, the Brockir are indispensable to, to the survival and enduring strength of kin society. Each kindred's forge is a unique creation, shaped over centuries by the wisdom of the Votann and the preferences of its kin. Despite their individuality, all forges share a certain defining traits. They are ceaseless centers of labor, illuminated by the molten glow of smelting fires and the blinding arcs of plasma-powered tools. Within these industrious sanctuaries lie countless mechanisms of artifice, from the Brakir's personal anvil workstations to towering auto foundries of immense complexity. So basically, this is the dwarves in space part. This is
Yeah.
dwarves in space right here.
Hmm.
What a sweet picture this is, from the plasma tools just to uh, smelting fires to all the weird just electronic bits that are just scrapped on the pile there, where you could just imagine him rummaging through it, grabbing a random one, putting it into some type of weapon. Yeah, nothing's really standardized or labeled.
If you do another RPG campaign, I'm definitely want to join that and be a Votan because this sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah, I've definitely been thinking about setting up a competing group to go and try to find the Ghost Forge.
The Brockir not only oversee the efforts of their cog robot assistants, but also take personal pride in crafting their own devices. Guided by traditional schematics as a mark of respect for the ancestors' wisdom, each Brockir is also expected to exercise their ingenuity to refine and improve upon these ancient designs. This is seen as a true act of reverence for the Votann, requiring a balance of innovation and meticulous field testing. Over time, each Brockir develops their own unique style, subtle hallmarks embedded within the devices they create. These personal signatures, when proven effective, are often adopted by other Brockir, gradually influencing the crafting practices of entire kindreds or even leagues. This deliberate, iterative process has enabled the kin to elevate the ancient technologies of their ancestors' long march fleets beyond their original specifications, resulting in genuine advancements while maintaining a reverent connection to their origins. So not only are you having like really good technology in comparison to the rest of the galaxy, but you're having progression, you're having advancement instead of regression. Yeah,
Yeah,
Stagnation.
stagnation.
Yeah.
yeah. There almost seems like there's a point that technology can reach. Like there has to be a cap at some point, you would imagine. Like I do wonder how many new inventions are really coming out of the Votan now. Um,
Hmm.
like how many big pieces, or have they basically come to the end of the physicist line and now have created the best things possible, the best kind of warp drive that they could possibly come up with? And yeah, it was better
Hmm.
than when they left the home world. And yeah, they can still make that stuff and they actually know how to. Um, yeah, I wonder.
So there's actually a really cool theory that you're kind of describing. So if you look at humans understanding and learning and you plot it onto a graph, the more we learn, the more we unlock the capability to
Okay.
learn. And it's this steady like line that continues to go up to either it'll eventually reach a point to where we can learn and create instantaneous like an AI almost, or will plateau to the point where we can't make anything new
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah. I also too sometimes look at humans and like AI and the relation, or in this case the kin and their relationship to AI, and why would they even need the kin at this point? What's the point of keeping this going and stuff? Um, why even come up with all these new technologies to help them? But maybe we'll touch on that later at the end after we read through some more of this.
Mm.
Yeah. Despite this pursuit of innovation, the Brakir remain steadfast in their adherence to core principles. All kin technology is crafted to embody reliability, utility, and efficiency above all else. Extravagant ornamentation or superfluous ritual significance has no place in their designs. Rugged and pragmatic, the creations of the Brakir are as unyielding as the kin who wield them. Their war gear and devices are built to endure until battered to destruction, never failing in their purpose.
No wanton
Yeah.
waste.
No
Number
wanton
None.
waste. Waste not.
Yeah, lest you be exiled. That's so funny.
Worse than a bolt around to the head.
Yeah.
Oh my Votann!
You eat your ration bar and you accidentally drop the wrapper on the floor, and the guy comes up behind you, points at him like, "You can recycle that."
That can be recycled.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the Ironkin. The Ironkin are self-aware machine intelligence, fully integrated and considered equal citizens within the Leagues of Votann. Crafted by the Votann, the Ironkin are not mere tools. They are sentient beings with their own cognitive faculties. With immense processing power, they are capable of mimicking the social behaviors of their flesh and blood kin cousins, allowing them to seamlessly blend into kin society. The Ironkin's design is as personal to them as the body of any organic being. Each Ironkin is composed of a cerebral unit, or CU, a highly advanced and nearly invulnerable brain module, protected by microfield generators woven into its structure, and a mechanical body tailored to fulfill specific societal roles. These roles can vary from a generalist to a strategic advisor, combat shock trooper among the Hearthkin, mining support unit, cargo handler, combat pilot, or any necessary function within League society. While their bodies are constructed to withstand hardship, they are not disposable. Unlike other machines, they might be easily replaced. An Ironkin's body requires careful repair when damaged. In the most extreme cases, should their body be damaged, the Ironkin's CU can survive independently, entering a dormant state while broadcasting a distress signal to any nearby League assets. This ability to endure and repair themselves ensure that the iron can remain functional even in the face of overwhelming adversity. Though created to serve. Oh, sorry, Gerald.
You're
Go
fine.
ahead.
That was a big point in the High Call's Oath novel was the person that would become the next High Call has their Ironkin assistant, and they actually take on multiple roles at one point. As you know, they kind of weighed between shock troop, navigator, and then like there was a point where it was severely damaged and it would emit this distress beacon while they're frantically trying to repair it, because it's the way the kin kind of revere or treat their iron kin almost as equals. It's like it's like trying to take a family member to the ER basically.
Yeah, crazy.
I've got one of those life alert bracelets. I've fallen and I can't
No.
get up.
Hello, help! My server processors have slowed down and I can't speed them up.
So I was wondering, so they've got all these different tailor-made bodies for societal roles. Do you think that means there's an Ironkin brothel worker?
Brothel bot. I don't like that. Oh man.
Uh,
Gerald, put that toaster away.
Sorry.
There's the brothel bot right now. Thank God it's not intelligent. Otherwise, that thing would be wrecked.
Oh man.
Anyway, though created to serve and assist the organic kin, the Ironkins are not slaves. Their relationship with their biological counterparts is one of partnership, as they serve willingly in whatever capacity their design dictates. Unlike the Men of Iron, who once turned against humanity during the cybernetic revolt, the Ironkin are not driven by ambition or self-interest. They are not vying for leadership or seeking to assert themselves over their kin. Instead, they emulate the emotions of their organic brethren, such as pride, camaraderie, courage, and empathy. But these are simply simulations designed to enhance their integration into kin society. The Ironkin's role is not to lead, but to perform their designated tasks with unwavering dedication and precision. In battle, the Ironkin fight alongside the Hearthkin, their mechanical prowess complementing the strength of their organic companions. They may serve as assistants to the Brokier Ironmasters, offering technical expertise and aiding in combat when their comrades find themselves overwhelmed. Their presence on the battlefield is a testament to their unyielding loyalty to the kin, serving as both a formidable force and enduring symbol of the League's advanced, pragmatic approach to technology.
It's just so funny how round and round in circles this goes, where it's just like, okay, so now we got robots that
Mhm.
are they're like your uncles almost. You worry for them if they get hurt and died. In fact, you almost worry about that more than if it was like your flesh and blood kinsman next to you. Uh, and then when you die, you get uploaded and you now become the Iron Kin. So that's one of the reasons why you kind of keep nice with them, because you might be that guy too one day. Not fully,
Mhm.
but a part of you might be. And it's just like every little
Mm.
part of them is reused over and over a bunch of times and put into this now and then into that.
That was, if I remember reading correctly, that was part of the excuse that they used. Like, if they ever come into contact with a Mechanicus and they happen to notice an Ironkin and they ask, "Wait a minute, is that abominable intelligence?" No, that's us. We're just
That's my
uploaded. We're
brother.
just uploaded into it. Exactly.
Yeah,
So
that's so.
I mean, man, could you imagine if the Mechanicum had that technology where they could upload their minds into like a central processing unit?
No more Mechanicum. They all go away into the machines.
wasn't that one of the high? Wasn't that one of them in the High Lords episode?
Yeah. Yeah,
Where
the
like the dude
factory
was like
sized.
like a factory sized supercomputer essentially.
Mm.
Classic High Lord of Terra. Um, so up next we have the Cogs. The Cogs are utilitarian robots employed by the Leagues of Votann for a wide array of labor and military functions. Unlike the Iron King, Cogs are devoid of self-awareness and intelligence, serving as little more than obedient drones that follow the commands of their kin masters. Much like the servitors or servo skulls of the Imperium, these machines are mindless tools, designed to perform tasks that require little more than mechanical precision. Unlike the Imperium, these aren't people. Big, small but very big difference. Many cogs are equipped with anti-gravitic engines that allow them to float, making them ideal for tasks requiring mobility across various surfaces. Others are housed within humanoid robotic forms, resembling the bodies of the Ironkin, enabling them to handle physical tasks that demand more dexterity. The range of cogs variants is vast, specialized units fulfilling roles from basic repair to maintenance to heavy labor within the guilds of the Leagues of Votann. Some even serve as bodyguards, tasked with protecting important figures such as Borkir, Iron Masters on the battlefield.
Who needs those when I've got a bunch of cherubs floating around that can do the exact same thing and
Yes,
look
they
better?
do. Bullet sponges, those cherubs are also called by some.
Mhm. I love the miniatures on the tabletop for the space. Is it the Devastator Space Marines with the heavy weapons? They've got a model that comes with them, and it lets you reload the weapons once per turn, and you can do another attack, but you sacrifice the cherub.
Yeah, the one cherub is the mini's holding like this melt bomb, and it always makes me nervous, like a picture of a baby holding a bomb. Look out! The first unit we're going to talk about of these cogs are the Corv, and this is one of the more specialized variants is the Corv, which accompanies the Grimnir into battle. These cogs are equipped with psychoactive barrier technology, aiding the Grimnir in focusing their psychic powers as they draw energy from the warp. With defensive ancestral warding crests and armed with autarch pattern bolters, the Corvs protect the Grimnir while they prepare to unleash their potent psychic abilities. The L cog is another variant designed for manual labor rather than combat. Unlike the other cogs, the L cog are fitted with humanoid forms that closely resemble those of Ironkin, giving them the capability to perform more complex tasks. On the battlefield, L cogs are crucial for logistical support, moving weapons and supplies for the kin oath bands. In particular, they assist Chthonian berserk squads, providing much needed robotic support for carrying and maintaining heavy weapons like the Chthonian berserk mole grenade launcher. It's so interesting that they make these guys look like the Ironkin. They're not something different. Like, they're so similar. It's another just like, what's happening? Which one is the real you? These guys now are eventually going to become these guys. It's another weird line and link in this chain of everything so similar but convoluted.
Yeah, they're being created, and they've got Ironkin stamped on the side of them, and then they slap a new label, like one of those self-sticky labels onto it, and it says
Yeah,
LCOG instead.
Iron Kid not included. Up next, we have the ECOGs, and they are specialized for battlefield support, and they serve alongside the Borkir Iron Masters, assisting them in repair and maintenance of kin vehicles. These cogs are often equipped with manipulator arms, enabling them to perform fine tasks like repairing intricate machinery. ECOGs are also equipped with anti-gravitic engines and weaponry such as plasma torches and Otark pad and bolt pistols, allowing them to defend their Iron Master while they perform their work under fire. Despite their lack of intelligence, cogs are indispensable to the smooth operations of the Leagues of Votann, performing tasks that would otherwise be beyond the capacity of their organic kin. These drones may lack true ambition or thought, but their unwavering reliability and mechanical precision ensure that they serve their purpose, whether in the fields or on the battlefield or in the heat of combat. Man, it just is like, why? Why not have these guys just full on Ironkin? Why make them a step below?
You know what the ECOGs feel like? They feel like gun drones from the Tau.
I was
Sure,
just about
like
to say the
that
same thing.
same technological level.
Yep.
Or the Cores too. Like
Mhm.
if you look at the model, it gives off very
Yeah.
similar vibes.
Yeah, yeah. So it's just like you just really don't need that much processing power. So why give it? I guess it makes sense for these guys
Yeah.
where, you know, waste is not allowed. So why put a bigger memory chip
Mhm.
into this than you need to?
This kind of really makes me think of like droids from Star Wars in general. Like you have different droids
Mhm.
for different
Yep.
functions. They each have their own certain levels of intelligences. They're basically AI, but a lot of them have like an either inhibitor chip or I forget what it's called, restraining bolt or whatnot, so they don't
Mhm.
they don't rebel or anything. But that's what a lot of this is kind of making me think of. So, but we do have more. Speaking of droids, we do have more models of other of of other types. So we have the Hun TR modules, aka Hunter, the haptic utility nerve transmission recalibrator, commonly known as the Hunter model, is a sophisticated targeting system integral to the weaponry of the Leagues of Votann. This advanced technology is employed across all man-portable ranged weapons used by kin infantry and features prominently in many vehicle-based weapon systems. The Hunter module is a technological cornerstone for the kin, seamlessly interfacing with their standard neuro-augmetics. This connection establishes a direct input feedback loop between the wielder and their firearm. Though an array of precision Through an array of precise sensors, the module generates subtle gravitational assistance pulses from the projectors embedded in the weapon's structure. These pulses counteract movement and recoil, allowing the wielder to maintain a steady firing platform even when sprinting across uneven terrain, enduring the impact of incoming fire or firing from a moving vehicle. I mean, this sounds very similar to like the automated system in the Space Marines ceramide armor,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
Um, This innovation underpins the kin's battlefield doctrine of relentless advancement, enabling them to deliver unyielding volleys of concentrated firepower while on the move. Combined with the kin's naturally robust physiology and rigorous training, the Hunter module serves as a formidable force multiplier, transforming their disciplined ranks into devastating engines of war. Pragmatic and efficient, the Hunter module exemplifies the grim ingenuity that defines the League of Votann.
That's so cool how they do that. Like every race has its own kind of variation of like super soldiers. And you know, not every race needs to have space marines, these big, tall, monstrous brutes running around. There are technological ways around this. Like the Tau, they use battle suits to counteract making super soldiers. You can just put somebody in a fancy suit. Where these guys, they have this it's almost like it controls your body for you, man. Very
Mhm.
wild.
Yeah.
So your computer's doing the processing for you.
And I liked how I love the way the miniatures look too on the tabletop in their big power armor. How they almost look like it's like a futuristic deep sea diver a little bit is what it
Mm.
reminds me of.
Maybe the artists knew what they were doing. I said the artists, not the writers.
So they also have force field technologies. The kin have mastered the art of force field technologies, with the weave field projectors standing as their most refined and widespread achievement. It represents the pinnacle of procure craftsmanship and is deployed across a broad spectrum of applications, from the personal protection of void miners and the frontline soldiers to the colossal variants used to shield kin void ships. At the heart of the weave field projector lies a technique known as weave
Weave a
work.
work. Come
This
on, say
energy
it
weaving
proper with
process.
the.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
Viva
there you go.
work. The energy weaving process blends the frequency, common to refractor, and conversion field. This is just going to end up into another orc episode,
Bring it
isn't
on.
it? We're all trying to do weird accents. The energy weaving process blends the frequencies common to refractor and conversion fields, entwining them with the most esoteric energies, including magnetic repulsion fields. The result is a multi layered, multispectral shield capable of adapting to a range of threats. Depending on its use, the shield is either maintained as a personal energy cowl or projected outward in a protective dome, designed to shield entire squads of kin warriors or groups of Chthonian miners. Within the kin hosts, the weave field projector is typically integrated into the armor of warriors, either worn as armored crests or mounted on war engines. These systems channel the amber energy into shimmering translucent domes that flow outward, creating a formidable barrier capable of intercepting even the most catastrophic of munitions. From the battlefield of the void, the weave field projector is an enduring testament to the grim ingenuity and relentless pragmatism that defines the kin. So, the Iron Halo that Space Marines wear, that's kind of like a void shield as well, right? Like, is it kind of along the same flavor as this?
I would, yeah, and like the fact that they're both force field technology, but then it ends there.
Yeah.
Like these ones are very interesting. The fact that they can kind of shift and shimmer and change their kind of,
Mm.
however they do it, and change it so it can be reuseful. Like it's adapting to every new shot. It's almost like Star Trek in the Borg, where you have to adjust your phasers, and then you have a limited time before you have to adjust your
Yeah.
phasers again. Um, where I'm pretty sure Space Marines aren't like void related, like they're not warp related either. Those are, we could pull up actually. Let's Google.
Tech Priest Gerald is currently honing his mechadendrites into the machine spirit.
It doesn't say specifically how that one works. So it's refractor shield technology, which is a small projector that projects an energy
Okay.
field around the user. Its effect is to disperse the energy of an incoming shot or blow over it, or blow over the total area of the field. Okay.
Interesting. So it almost like bends the shot around the shield and it's
Yeah, it
strange.
creates
Yeah.
some type of like, not physical wall, but some type of wall that kind of dampens it, and
You're
then
right.
Hmm.
yeah. Like there are the shields
Mm.
on Warlord Titans and stuff that are actual void shields where they turn those on
Yeah.
and any
Yeah.
bullets will go into that and their shields will absorb it and just unleash it in the warp, which is pretty fucking cool. But yeah, these are very different. And then once again, the Leagues of Votann are very different on top of that, with this kind of like Borg like ability to change for different effects.
I love the void missiles that the Titan or the Knights and the Titans use, where it goes into the Imperium, passes the shield, pops back out, and then
Yeah,
explodes.
so cool. Psychic technologies that the Leagues of Votann use. The Kin's mastery of warp space is a feat few other starfaring civilizations would dare to attempt. Their resilience, bolstered by the hardened souls and their steadfast protection of advanced technologies, allow them to traverse the dangers of the warp with a calculated pragmaticism. Even those kin who bear the psychoactive clone skin, while possessing a faint connection to the warp, are not true psychers in the manner that humans understand the term. Rather, their souls are like a lantern with its aperture slightly cracked open, shining just enough to harmonize with the barrier technologies at their disposal. Devices such as the ancestral warding staffs and armored crests crafted with careful precision can protect the faint echo of psychic abilities when touched by these psychoactive kin. At their contact, these devices awaken, thrumming with power and glowing with cold witchlight. Through their interaction with such barrier tech, the Grimnir and the Imbir are able to manipulate the energies of the warp, producing phenomena similar to the conjures of true psychers. Those controlled manifestations of the warp are a testament to the kin's pragmatic approach to the power, a blending of cautious adaptation, ancient tech, and their unyielding will. Wow, so they really kind of interact differently. So how they describe it as a lantern that they're able to kind of, when they first make them, just have that dialed in to some warp energy.
Yeah, but can a strong lantern split a planet with psychic energy?
No, we bitch ass fucking Votann can't even crack their own planets like a real man.
No, give me a good battle psyker any day.
Then Grimnirs ain't thinking hard enough.
Yeah, so it's this kind of dual thing. It's like they have their soul that they kind of get imbued with during the cloning process, and then that will kind of tie into technology and allow those devices to kind of channel the warp energy a little bit better.
Yeah, there is so much to wrap your head around with that, because it like makes you wonder, like, what is a soul in 40K? Whole
Yeah.
tangent right there.
And then these guys, it's like if you keep taking the same soul and just putting in the same clone skin, like what is happening? Are you multiplying that soul? Are you dicing it?
Yeah, I mean, or when they die, like the soul, does it go to the Imperium, and then it's just floating there for anyone to take, and then it gets sucked back into the Materium and put into the next body.
I mean, that's basically how you describe the soul stones for the Eldar, though, right? Or the Drukhari that are being brought back by Homunculus.
It is cool that they're such masters of the warp. Like maybe masters is a weird word. Like they're different. They're not like the masters that the Eldar are, where they can cast lightning bolts, but they're not letting it affect them, and they're definitely taking advantage of it. It's more like harnessing a natural resource or something like that. Like it's a new type of petrol for them.
Kind of, yeah.
They dabble. They're dabblers in the world.
I think somewhere in the Codex, I can't remember the exact passage, but it was like they were deliberately made to where their souls were a lot more dim, so they basically pass under the radar almost of other warp entities.
Sure, interesting.
But speaking of the warp, along with their technology, we also have their starships and their warp travel. So let's see what our favorite space dwarves are up to. The kin speak with quiet pride when they say that the void is in their veins, a testament to their ancient, unbroken connection to the stars. From their earliest days, they have been starfarers, and they view themselves as masters in the art of space travel. The voidcraft of the Leagues of Votann are a reflection of this legacy, designed for endurance and strength. Even the smaller vessels, such as the Bastion-class and Stronghold-class commerce vessels, are formidable. Used for mining operations, these ships rival the cruisers of other spacefaring races, matching them in armored bulk, shielding, and firepower. In real space navigation, kin starships employ electromagnetic scopes to fuel hydrogen ramjets. While not the swiftest form of Newtonian propulsion, the kin make clever use of
Everyone
these
knows
systems.
hydrogen ramjets aren't the quickest form. Come on. It's a basic science.
Come on, you plebs. Pick it up. While not the swiftest form of Newtonian propulsion, the kin make clever use of these systems, allowing their ships to function as ballistic entities, despite their immense size and mass. When it comes to FTL travel, the kin remain unwavering in their approach. They rely on warp drives and Geller ramparts of exceptional design and unmatched reliability, far surpassing anything humanity currently possesses. Each voidcraft is helmed by a voidmaster, a kin captain who has mastered every aspect of spacefaring, often augmented with advanced enhancements to better perform their duties. Supporting the voidmaster are the Ironkin Wayfinders, those whose accelerated logic cores allow them to navigate warp space with precision. Their enhanced cognitive abilities help plot the safest and most effective paths through the dangers of the warp, all while avoiding psychic interference. These specialists, alongside the bridge crew, guide the ship through a series of plunges. Plunges are carefully controlled warp jumps, short in duration but purposeful. During these, the kin can harvest energistic skynes from the Imperium or even board warp-borne hulks for empiric salvage. While these plunges are slower than the vast warp jumps made by humanity's void ships or the rapid sprints enabled by the Tau AL-38 slipstream module, they offer a near guaranteed precision. The kin know that with their methodical approach, they will reach their destination as planned almost every time. And I think that was a very important point that
Cool.
is brought up with them, and especially in the book, the High Call book, was like they were very careful about making short, quick jumps, so that way they can get to where they're going a lot safer and not 500 years too early or 3,000 years too late, or have to deal with any kind of warp demons and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Mm. It's weird too that they're mining in the warp as well.
Yeah, like I wonder if that's like, yeah, just literally, a little vacuum tube on the outside and they're sucking up warp energy, or if it's more, they stop in a quick demon world, mine that bitch up, carry on. Like how many asteroids are lost in the warp every time they open up a warp rift?
Uh,
Maybe.
I was gonna say because there's planets that float
Yeah.
around in the warp
Yeah.
too, right? Yeah. Oh, weird. It's yeah. I mean, it also kind of explains a little bit why they're kind of not stuck in the galactic center, but they don't really leave it all
Yeah.
that much because probably just the sheer distance they'd have to make thousands of these short jumps to get
Yeah.
anywhere,
Yeah.
you know?
No, I like that a lot actually. That's a cool way of doing it. Very different.
Hmm. Yeah, it definitely gives them their own
Yeah.
flavor, I think.
The plunges, the short plunges. There's a couple other things in there too. Like, so they avoid using like an astropath, and like even their Geller fields probably doesn't necessarily
Mm.
have a psyker in there. Seems like they use the Ironkin and like super advanced processing to kind of negate any big effects. But yeah.
Right.
Because once again, it's like these guys aren't
Very.
necessarily psychic. Even their psychic clone skin guys, like the way they interact with it is very different. It seems like they're more of like a channeling focus than like the master of it or the influencer of it.
Kind of like how the weird boys have the copper staff to channel their
Yeah,
extra warpy orky energy into it. But yeah, they are the copper
exactly.
staff.
I like that.
All right. So some martial technologies. The Leagues of Votann's martial technologies are a testament to the kin's mastery over both advanced engineering and brutal demands of warfare. Their weapons are meticulously crafted, using materials and methods far beyond what other starfaring civilizations have achieved. From the ballistic power of the Autok pattern bolter to the direct energy precision of the HY Laz auto rifle or Helis auto rifle, the kin employ weapons that are as efficient as they are lethal, surpassing even the finest Imperial designs. Their close combat weapons are equally formidable, incorporating plasma fields that allow swords and axes to slice through the toughest armor, leaving charred destruction in their wake. It kind of reminds me, was the Necron phase sword that is kind of able to do this? It like cuts through armor and goes behind it and then hits you.
Yeah, yeah. There's some
Uh,
demon weapons that do that too.
the
Where
use,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. The use of mass driver technology in Warhammers and Mauls. Up, we said the name of the game. We got to end the series here.
adios.
Sorry, guys.
roll credits.
And and Mauls elevates their melee weapons to the level of living artillery, delivering blows that can obliterate foes with an explosive force far beyond the weapon's size. Among the most feared of the kin's armaments are those forged from dark star ore, a material from the dead zones that dampens life and machinery alike, making even a glancing cut from one of these weapons deadly. Their exosuit armor, worn by the elite and here Heathguard, enhances physical strength to superhuman levels, allowing them to withstand the most punishing assaults while wielding weapons capable of devastating entire battalions. The kin's approach to martial warfare is cold, calculating, and relentless. relying on weapons and armor that are enduring as the warriors who wield them, ready to face any foe that dares to challenge them in battle.
Cool. Dark Star or that's a
Mm.
fun sci-fi term.
The exosuits that they're kind of talking about, it kind of again gives me the vibe of the crisis battle suits from the Tau.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to see some more kind of walker variants in that model line. One day at a time though.
Yeah.
Armor. The most commonly worn attire across the Leagues of Votann is the Void Suit, a practical, utilitarian design that embodies the kin's no-nonsense approach to technology. Constructed from bastium alloy and reinforced with thermoregulatory radiation-hardened underlayer, the Void Suit serves a dual purpose. It acts as a durable piece of utility clothing for the harsh environments of the Leagues, and when combined with a helmet, transforms it into a fully functional spacesuit. Equipped with numerous connector relays, the Void Suit is versatile, capable of integrating with everything from exoframes to pressure rigs to reinforced kin void armor. Cool. Void armor, standard issue for the Hearthkin soldiers and other infantry unit, provides robust protections against the myriad dangers faced in combat and space travel. Its multi-layered construction ensures defense against atmospheric hazards, while also integrating built-in scanners and communication equipment. The armor itself is made up of hardened, jointed segments that seamlessly connect to the void suit worn beneath. Constructed from magneferrite weave and often reinforced with adamantium, enhanced with microfield generators, it offers superior protection against both ballistic and directed energy weapons. For the elite in here, Hearthguard, the Leagues have crafted exo-armor, an imposing servo-assisted suit of powered heavy infantry armor that stands as a symbol of their fearsome prowess. Designed for designated for the best and most battle-hardened warriors, the exo-armor's inch-thick plates offer protection that rivals and often exceeds the legendary Terminator armor worn by the Adeptus Astartes. That's wild. These warriors, selected from their extraordinary feats on the battlefield, serve many roles, from bodyguards to elite first strike forces and void ships boarding parties. Their rank is earned solemnly through merit, their deeds over many Terran years of combat proving their worth. Exo armor dramatically augments the physical strength and durability of the Hearthguard, with some units capable of shrugging off even anti-tank fire. It also allows for the mounting of a wide range of devastating weaponry, including ETA Karn plasma weapons, volcanite disintegrators, concussion weapons, plasma blade gauntlets, and terrifying mass hammer. The sight of a battle-hardened Hearthguard in exo armor standing firm against the tide of war instills fear in their enemies and determination in their fellow kin. So when you're born, you're basically handed a void suit, and then over your lifetime, you slap on more armor pieces until you got a fully functioning exosuit on top of it, but you never once ever take off your void suit, just like Gerald and his tech robe.
Oh, wait, the robe's still on. The robe's still on.
Buckshot Bill in chat says, how far you think a Primaris could punt a Votann?
Well, since a Votann is a massive supercomputer, probably the size of a building, not far.
Or I can't. Let's say I can.
Yeah, for those that don't know, Votann are the Ancestor Cores, the supercomputers. Kin are the actual space dwarves. Just to clear up any confusion for anybody.
See, I make the same mistake. Yeah.
And Irakin are friends, the most cherished and beloved of all of the Leagues of Votann's members.
Until they decide they want to kill you and join the Iron Men, and then we have this whole AI.
It's right in the name, the Iron King, the Men of Iron. Fuck. It was staring right at us.
Iron Kin are friends, not robot slaves. So they have some pretty good weaponry. So let's talk about the range weapons. The firearms of the Kin bear an unmistakable resemblance to many of the weapons used by the Imperium, their roots tracing back to humanity's age of technology. Yet they surpass these in nearly every aspect, with the Kin's superior craftsmanship and materials, whether it's the rugged Autok pattern bolter designed for relentless, unyielding fire, or the precision of the HY of the High Las auto rifle and an advanced directed energy weapon, the Kin's arsenal is built to outperform. I mean, this all just sounds like your standard issue bolter and las gun, like +1, basically.
Yeah, mastercrafted.
It's not a hot shot las gun, it's a high las
Ha ha
auto rifle.
ha!
Come on.
Yes, exactly. Some of their weapon families, such as the
Yeah. And
Vulcanite
the HI
firearms,
stands
have
for high yield.
high yield. The more you know.
Uh,
Some of their weapon families, such as the Vulcanite firearms, have remained unchanged for countless Terran millennia, honed through ages of tradition. Others harness energy sources that humanity either never mastered or condemned as forbidden tech heresy by the Adeptus Mechanicus, a mark of the Kin's unyielding technological independence. Like, it's kind of like the point that Mark and Nick made earlier. It's just like there's only like so much advancement you can do for like a particular piece of technology. Like you can only do so much with it.
Yeah.
So I can see why some of it does not change, like the bolter.
Yeah. And like another thing with like there's no need to change the bolter. There's no need to create a new weapon of war. The weapons that they got seem to be working, and
Mhm.
with their mindset, they're not super inventive because invention often causes waste. You invent something, it doesn't work, and you have to keep trying until it does work. But
Mhm.
that's a lot of waste
mhm.
potentially. So they just kind of stick with what's
Exactly, and
working
like
for them.
yeah, and you have to put so much time and effort and research into that to make sure it doesn't become wasteful. So
Yeah,
that's
which
your
in and of itself is
stopgap or
pretty
your.
wasteful of time.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Which
Yeah.
which this leads to one of my favorite phrases of all time: "If it ain't broke, don't fix it." So
Yeah, for
the
sure.
Leagues of Votann are also known for weapons that exploit gravitational forces, such as the Graviton Blast Cannon, SP Conversion Beamer, and the deadly ETA Karn plasma guns and pistols. The Kin were the first to introduce ion weaponry to the Tau Empire, though they still reserve the finest examples of these weapons for themselves. Makes sense, as you do. Warriors of the Kin hosts, well versed in the strengths and tolerances of their weaponry, are trusted to maintain and repair their own arms. This ensures that they can extract the full potential from the superb arsenal crafted by the Brakir, turning every weapon into an extension of their battlefield mastery.
I think it's wild that they were the first ones to introduce ion weaponry to the Tau. I am sure the Imperium loves that.
Yeah, geez.
What the
And in
Imperium don't
return, they
know
got.
won't hurt them.
How do you feel about kind of this like on the actual like design of the model? There's a lot of pull through of like the rail rifle clearly pulls over, some of the ion tech pulls over, both weapons carry over,
Mhm.
um power armor and Primaris Marines and like those circle joint parts they carry over a lot. Do you guys like how much carries over, or should it have been more kind of separate?
Mm. The jury is out for me on how I feel about the Votan. I mean, some of their models are cool. As a whole, I feel like they just take too much from two other places. Like, if you want to use rail rifles and things like that, just play Tau.
Maybe I
Like,
will.
I mean,
Don't
okay,
threaten me with a
okay,
good
cool.
time.
But yeah, I mean, what do you think, Gerald? What's your
um,
thoughts?
I'm kind of like you. I'm kind of on the fence. Like obviously, like I have one of every model. I have the Codex, and I read the High Calls Oath book. And so on the one hand, I like it, but I kind of understand like there's a lot that's borrowed from the Imperium because originally they started out as human before changing into the Kin, and it's kind of I see where you're getting at though because it also kind of reminds me of like this is what humanity could be if they followed the same progression as the Tau instead of regressing uh, to what they are now.
We could be
So
short bearded people.
Mhm.
Come on, just give us the chance. Just unite.
as you should.
That is power armor better than Astartes
Yeah.
Terminator armor. Maybe the Imperium should just die out, and then these guys become
now,
the next great good that inherit the mantle of
now we're talking.
responsibility.
Fantastic.
All right. So, alongside their ranged weapons, they've got some melee weapons. In the grim wars of the 41st millennium, the kin have learned that not all enemies, especially the savage greenskins, can be repelled by gunfire alone. When the line is breached, it becomes a brutal contest of strength and skill, a fight where the blade must serve as much as the bullet, and victory hangs on swift, decisive melee combat. Kin close quarter, kin close combat weapons are forged with ruthless purpose in mind. Many are enhanced with integrated plasma fields, which either wreath the blades of swords and axes or form the cutting edge themselves. These weapons tear through physical shields and body armor alike, leaving only charred husks of flesh and bone in their wake. The very touch of a plasma infused edge ensures that there is no escape from their deadly grasp. Yet, even more savage is the concussive weapons, instruments of destruction that magnify the force of their blows beyond all reason. Warhammer's mauls and reinforced gauntlets are all fitted with mass driver technology, converting even a simple strike into a devastating wave of concussive force. What would normally be a heavy blow becomes an earth shattering impact, a brutal collision that obliterates foes as an overwhelming shockwave. Among the most feared of all kin melee weapons are those wrought with dark star ore, harvested from unwelcome fringes of the dead zones. These malevolent materials generates a universal dampening field that shuts down organic metabolic, and electromechanical functions upon contact. The weaponry crafted from dark star ore is both a carefully guarded and terrifying tool, for a single cut from its blade can extinguish life with the finality of a switch being flipped, leaving nothing but the lifeless shell of its victim. These weapons are wielded with the gravitas that they deserve, for the strike with them is to embrace the cold, unyielding finality of death.
That's so crazy, that weapon. It just like if you
Yeah.
get nicked by it, you're done. It just destroys you.
Sounds like the perfect assassin weapon. Could you imagine like a dagger made of this? And you're just,
One little paper cut, yeah. And that person just
All it
kind of
takes.
yeah.
yeah, it doesn't feel right, and then a day later it's like their whole cellular structure is decayed.
Yeah. I'd make a blow dart out of this, just
Ooh,
right in the neck, and then you continue
yeah.
on, and you wake up tomorrow
Yeah,
morning
just
dead.
like a little pen quill, and then done.
Mhm.
Yeah. Dark Star Ore is very interesting. Man, that's a whole kind of game changer for 40k materials and metal. We
Mhm.
hear a lot about like fulgurite, um, which is another one of these almost like super killer type weapons that can kill even what are they called? Perpetuals. And yeah, I bet this is another one of those
Mhm.
types of weapons that can just kill whatever.
You think this could kill
I
a
think so,
perpetual?
man. Like it shuts down the body's metallic thing. Like it just seems like it's doing more than just cutting you. It like degrades you. It shuts you down. It's yeah,
Right. And the way I take from this too is that I think it's instant. It says it's like a switch being
yeah,
flipped. Like you get hit with it, you're there, and then it's almost like your essence, you, is just ripped out of you, and then you're
yeah.
gone. You're just a lifeless
You're
body.
right. It definitely is instant. Yeah, what a crazy weapon. All right. Well, we made it to the
Man,
last of our little bit of notes there. How do you guys feel about all that?
I definitely learned a lot. Like I thoroughly enjoyed the last two episodes on the Votan, and it's just kind of not just the Votan, but the kin themselves, but learning more about the actual AI cores is very
Yeah, like
interesting.
it's a very unique idea that also draws from a lot of places in like just little tiny bits. But like it's very different for space dwarves. Sometimes it doesn't feel very dwarven.
Mhm.
They have some uh, aspects like the ancestor worship. That carries through, or master craftsman that carries through too. But um, like I think like what's the relationship between the Iron Kin and the Kin? Like, is there some fantasy kind of thing that they're supposed to represent? Not quite. It's not like there's not that many pull throughs that like make it feel super dwarven.
I don't know. Do you wish that? Do you like that they introduced the Votan, or do you wish that they had just taken the squats and made them like a more in depth army of their own?
I think I like what they did with it for the most part. Like the squats, they didn't have that much going on for them. They suffered from the other end of it, where they were just dwarves in space, and they didn't have any inspiration beyond that. So it's almost like we have the two sides of this coin, where it's like one was just too dwarven with no real defining characters other than for dwarves in space, and this one isn't very dwarven at all. But I don't know, it's got some stuff to it still that I like.
And apparently, like the original squats from Necromunda kind of had a bit of a lore update as well. But that's something more from what lore tuber was it? Arbiter Ian. He's a pretty good one. He's a pretty good one too. So I'd say look them up if because there's not like what am I trying to say here? There's a little bit of Votann influence, but but for the most part they are their own thing where they make their own guilds basically, and so it's kind of interesting. So whenever you get a chance, look that up on the. I'll find the video and send it to you guys. But it's pretty interesting.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting how these guys came to be. It is nice that this wasn't like a retcon, or like, the squads still exist. They still existed. They still could potentially exist in some form. Like, this is a very specific branch of the squat empire that kind of thrived and carried on. And I do like that kind of retcon for sure, where they added to it as opposed to destroying something.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yep. And I like that they branch out more into the Galactic Center and that kind of void around it, and you get to learn more about that. Anything that kind of expands the galaxy and the setting and gives you more places to kind of set up on the tabletop is something I always enjoy.
Yeah. Well, I do have some questions we could go through. There's a couple very interesting ones. Let's start with a philosophical question, and it's called kin dependence.
Ooh.
How does the Votann's presence shape the identity of the kin? Could the kin survive as a culture without their guidance? And we were kind of talking about that a little bit, of like, what would happen without the Votann around? What would happen to the kin? Would they revert back to just like, okay, so we can't make clone skins anymore. Like, let's just go back to fucking each other naturally, and now we'll carry on the race that way. Like, do they have that ability still, I wonder?
Reproduce organically? Yeah, who knows?
No telling.
Probably not, because I could imagine like that drive. Yeah,
I think it depends. It probably just depends on like the particular clone. Like, if you're coming from a template to fulfill certain duties, surely there might be one that,
Yeah.
That's why you've got the brothel.
So. Would the kin eventually get over the missing Votann? Would they just move on? Never.
No, I don't think so. Nope.
Yeah.
No, I honestly, I could see it going one of two ways. Either they collapse altogether, or they become almost like feral kin.
Cool. Yeah, I like that concept. Okay.
Either that, or I'd say probably absorbed into another league if they'll accept them.
Yeah.
True, but I'm saying like if there were no more Votann at all.
Okay, we're talking about like apocalypse type stuff. So
yeah. That's the way I was kind of thinking of the question in my mind.
Okay. The next question: dissent and debate. Are there factions within the kin that questions the Votann's guidance or advocate for reducing their influence? If so, what arguments do they make? Like, this would be a fun little cult of non-ancestor worship, a little rebellious streak in these ones.
Well, yeah, because you were talking earlier about the the kin that are exiled. I could see if you exile enough kin, they could almost form like their own roaming band. And this is almost what you'd have.
Yeah. Or even sometimes these kin are exiled into the Votann computer, and they're just stored away where no one can ever access it. But just imagine you put enough kin in that one stored away room, and they kind of create their own little bubble of intelligence, however that looks, through electronic means, and then starts running wild in a core.
But I mean, it also if the kin are being created genetically, does that mean that the Votan are also putting like a slight rebelliousness into the kin that they're creating?
I imagine, like, yes, like, unintentionally, like, a little bit of rebellion is good, like, without a little bit of rebellion, you don't wanna go to that
Mhm.
next star or do that next kinda crazy thing or, you know, there is a use for it for sure, but yeah, it must be, like, such a tempered down version, um, to keep things from
I like
going
to,
crazy.
I
Sure.
like to think of it kind of like that, like that, like that human ingenuity, like that talks about like, if we can have self automated fighter jets, why don't we just use those all the time? But as far as like thinking and out of the box processing, like there are just some things that you just can't beat a human being in, and so maybe that's
Mhm.
why, like we're just like um it just like you pointed out earlier, it's just like why not just use Ironkin for everything?
Yeah, if you had AI fighter jets fighting AI fighter jets, is anything really being accomplished, or is it just a waste of
Yeah.
resources?
Yeah,
That's a
for sure.
waste.
Yeah, like, the computer's just like that little bit of, squat kin ingenuity, that little bit of,
Mm.
non-standardness as the machines only just has one way of doing things. They like this little bit of different input.
Yeah, you don't want a whole army of yes men.
Trying to find the rule about grudge tokens because I think that's one of my favorite things that they have. That's like a carryover from the fantasy from the dwarves and Warhammer
Oh,
fantasy.
interesting.
Grudges, yeah. That's so
Hmm.
funny. I do have a couple more Votan episodes planned. Like, there's still a lot of information. I'm surprised how much there actually is on the Votan for being so new. Um,
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy how much just 3 episodes so far, and I feel like we've just kind of started scratching the
yeah, there's
surface a little
definitely a
bit.
lot more to dig, man. Well,
Mm,
Jared's finding that little thing. The final question I have is their connection to the warp. Could the Votan have any relationship to the warp, such as shielding the kin from its effects or tapping into it in unknown ways? What would the implications of such connection be? Yeah, it'll just kind of open up their connection to the warp and just like it's so different than what the other races kind of do. And here's an interesting thought: like the warp is often thought of an afterlife, and let's just say when the vote or when the kin die, their soul still gets devoured. And yeah, sure, the genetic memory gets implanted into the ancestral core and carried on, but like their soul is gone, eaten, devoured. Um, do you think that's kind of how that flow process works, or do you think it is kind of more like the Eldar, where it is a soul transfer as opposed to like an information transfer into the core?
'cause, yeah, it really could go either way. But then if they are being devoured, do any kin currently even have souls? Because they've been made so
Hmm.
many
Yeah,
times that they'd all been devoured by now, wouldn't they?
yeah, yeah. Like I guess it depends on what that clone skinning is like, because we're essentially all
Mhm.
clones of our parents to some degree. And like if they are making like
Yeah.
new life forms, like you would imagine, then those new life forms are like they have souls then too, you would think to some degree. Like, as it does sound
Hmm.
like they have like a
Does
billion option templates available and they mix and match the best kind of thing. So it's like every time you're doing that, you are creating something truly unique and individual.
does that mean the Votan have the ability to manufacture souls?
Yeah, but doesn't everyone who can reproduce in theory?
Yeah. I mean, I guess, but then like you have the Tau that can reproduce, but the Tau don't really have. I mean, they kind of have souls, but they
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah, like, it's definitely not the same. I
I don't
was
know.
we did a couple Warp episodes recently, and, the one thing that stuck with me about the Eldar soul and just how it's always described as being a good soul, but what actually makes it a good soul? It's long-lasting effects in the warp, so it can linger in the warp even after longer than most. So that's what makes it particularly good for the Chaos Gods is, like, yeah, where humans fire hot and aggressive, and it's, like, more a quick kind of flare up, as opposed to this kinda long
Hmm.
soul process, so, um,
Hmm.
yeah,
So humans are gasoline and Eldar are coal
Yeah.
in the
And
wood.
then the Votann are like an electric plug-in space heater where you're like, well, yeah, I need a couple extra parts, including some technology here. It does heat the room, but well, those are the kind of questions I had. We don't have any caller-ins right now.
Correction. I think Fuzz is looking to get on
Just in time for the call-ins. Okay, yeah. I'll
just in
drop
time.
another link.
But while you're dropping the link, I did find the page on grudges. And now this is as is printed. So I think the rules have changed slightly since then. But if your Crusade faction is Votann, then each time a Votann unit from your order of battle is destroyed by an enemy unit and subsequently fails its out of action test, make a note on that unit's Crusade card of the Crusade faction of the enemy unit that destroyed it. For example, if a Votann unit was destroyed by an Orc unit in battle and then it failed an out of action test, you would write that grudge on the Crusade card. While a unit has such a note on its Crusade card, it is said to be harboring a grudge against that faction. And and if your opponent's army has, for example, the Orcs Crusade faction, then such a Votann unit would be harboring a grudge against your opponent's army. And then it goes into the rules of what happens if depending on how many grudge tokens you get, because you can get more than one depending on how the game goes.
Yeah, that's
That'll be
pretty
fun
cool.
to read some more about the grudges and all that kind of stuff. So we got somebody calling in here. Welcome, Fuzz. Welcome back to the show.
Hey guys, I got on because you asked me to, Mark. But like I said, I literally just showed up.
Perfect. So, what do you think of the episode? Tell me everything you know.
I imagine it was absolutely fantastic.
That's the right episode.
I
Answer.
I do really like the Votann. Like, I love dwarves in pretty much every setting that they're in. I love Tolkien dwarves. I love Norse dwarves, even though they're technically elves. I love the Votann. Like they're all, they're all great. And the little bit I do know about like their technology, um, is I think the most interesting thing to me, and I don't know if you all covered this in the actual episode, but it is in its own way a really cool glimpse back towards the golden age of technology for mankind and what
Sure.
all of humanity used to have access
Mhm.
to.
Yeah, like back when the people could live lives of leisures, they had these STC machines that could accomplish any type of task that they needed, print off stuff, all that kind of cool stuff. Very like could be very idealistic for sure. The way some of this technology, just like if there wasn't so many bad things in the galaxy happening, the Votann could have a very nice life because of all this technology.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
and go
See,
ahead, Nick.
oh, I was just gonna say, you hear everyone worried about AI taking jobs and stuff away from us in our current day, but I think about it this way: that imagine if AI ran all of our jobs and we could just sit home and raise our families, and none of us had to work, and we could all live lives of
Yeah.
Yeah, like
leisure.
I am on board with that. Like if the like, menial task jobs, if AI was doing the Amazon deliveries, if they were doing shipping packages, if they were
Hmm.
doing construction or whatever, that could we have the technology to allow for robotics to do that. Yeah, and we can focus on other things. We can focus on more science, technology, art, and culture, things like that, or well, whatever we find important to us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was just thinking like towards AI from my golden age of technology comment. With like how close are the Votans like AI kin to like the Men of Iron and whatever happened with those.
Yeah, like we did briefly mention that, and I just described it as the one good outcome of AI. We have all these
Right.
horrific outcomes, but the Votan rolled the dice and they rolled a 6, and they got the one good outcome where all the other Men of Iron turned on their leaders. This was the one good one.
Right. Or are the Votan themselves like the remnants of Men of Iron, and they're just subtly controlling the Votan and creating their own tiny Men of Iron.
I think there was one story where like there was an existing Man of Iron, but it was like trying to evade persecution, so it's just like masking itself as a servitor, basically. Mm-hmm.
I think I've
Oh,
seen it.
yeah,
Might have been you, but I
crazy.
think I did remember seeing somebody bring that up in the Discord. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just like how stable their technology is, how even like their warp jumping technology
Yeah.
is very safe and stable. Just, partly because of like the way they use it, but their technology just doesn't really seem to have like many, if any, downsides to it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's
Man, call me a sadist. It almost seems too safe. I want to see
Right? They
something go
need they
wrong.
need to have an OSHA. They need some violations so they can get some regulations going.
Yeah. Yeah, no, their technology is definitely like that, where it just seems like it's nigh magical, where it just seems like they could come up with any technological solution that they needed for any situation. Um,
Yeah. The only, I guess, like the only like downside to their technology is the slow, inevitable failings of the Votann. And I brought this up as like a tinfoil hat on the Discord one time, but like that's why the Demiurge, like section of the Votann like have allied themselves with the Tau, because they are also like an AI technology based species that is shown to be able to like build upon other people's things. So like they're only allied with the Tau so they can like figure out how to fix their AI Votann back home.
yeah, so you think the Demiurge were part of the Votann, kinda? I know it's kind of shoehorned and not specifically said, but where do you stand on that?
I thought I had read that it was at least I don't know how recent that was, but it was like specifically said that the Demiurge were like one of like the Leagues of Votann, or like a subsection of
Okay.
one of them. Um,
Interesting.
if
Okay.
not,
I
I think it sounds like they are, but
I always picture them as different, like the
mhm.
Demiurge were like rock people almost. Like their skins almost look like from Thor. There's that rock
Okay,
person.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, they almost look like that.
I'm actually googling it right now because
Because
I
I think
need a
there's also one of the
refresher.
clone schemes for the Votann like added that to as like a skin texture, that like rocky skin texture.
Man, and that would be pretty wild too. What you could do with if you start messing with the genetics like that.
Oh
You
yeah, like
start.
that too. It's almost like their own version of like Tyranids, and that they can like genetically adapt to whatever they need to. They just do it in a much nicer way.
All that Google's telling me is that the Demiurge are just an offshoot of the Leagues of Votann that are allied with the Tau
Okay.
Yeah,
Empire.
yeah, that's what it definitely looks like for sure.
Yeah.
They have been aligned in there,
Yeah.
but
And I think it's a Dark Age of technology thing as opposed to like a Votann related thing. But believe there was such thing as the Men of Stone along
yeah,
with the Men of Iron.
it'd be cool to do an episode on just like some of those robots and stuff. Men of Stone, Men of Iron, Men of Gold, all that.
Even like the nanotechnology robots that they had.
Sure, sure.
Mm.
Mhm.
Cool. Well, any other thoughts, or is that? I think that's pretty well a episode on Votann, I'd imagine.
I'm gonna agree with you 100%. It's a great episode on Votann.
Yeah, I like them. Like I said, they're not my favorite representation, but like, there's nothing in here that I'm like unhappy with. It's more just like maybe they could have gone harder at this aspect or that aspect, but none of it's like
I,
wretched.
you know what role I think they fill perfectly is if you're new to the hobby and you're not sure which model line to go with. This gives you something that has a feel of a lot of different things because it gives you like that Space Marine power armor, but it also gives you like the Tau weaponry and then some of the Necron
Yeah.
side of things.
You
Even
can
the
also
vehicle
paint
being a
So,
little bit like
paintless.
Imperial Guard like too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can paint shirtless dwarves. That's always one of my favorite pastimes.
And
nice.
like if you like dwarves, you finally got dwarves in space. Like that was
Fine.
my main thing. Like
Yeah.
there are plenty of elves all the live long day in 40K. We finally got dwarves now.
Well, Fuzz, thanks for calling in, and yeah, see you on the
Yeah,
next
no
one.
problem.
All right, well, that list just leaves the three of us here, boys. Rock and Stone, my diggers. We definitely learned a lot. I think the next episode's going to be on some Eldar mythology, but for you boys, it's going to be on Fulgrim and the Emperor's Children. So start reading up on your nipple
Nice.
twisting techniques,
I
because
need
we'll
to
need
read.
it.
I need to read the Fulgrim book then.
The most the most beautifulest of all the relics.
Yeah.
He was born so beautiful they wouldn't allow him to be killed as a child.
That's pretty. That's a pretty baby. Cool. Well, yeah, we're going to learn a whole lot about Fulcrum. It's going to be a good time. And notes, I guess, with that point. Hey, if you like listening to homebrew lore, go check out Lorehammer Listen to Lore podcast. I read homebrew lore. Sometimes Gerald reads with me. Sometimes people just submit their lore and we upload that. It's a lot of fun to just get different homebrew and what people kind of have done with the 40k universe out there. So go check out Lorehammer Listen to Lore.
And since we just finished talking about dwarves in space, whenever you're ready to talk about fantasy dwarves, hop on over to the Grimlore podcast, where we do a lot of talking about Warhammer Fantasy and some other grimdark settings.
And then my real passion is the painting side of things. So if you want to talk about the painting side, come and find me on Instagram at black.fox.miniatures. Send me some of your pics, chat with me. I'm always happy to kind of talk to the community out there.
Very fun. And yeah, don't forget to join the Discord to get even more involved in what we're doing. And yeah, Patreon shoutouts for today. Since we did an episode yesterday, we had one new Patreon member, Hayden. Thank you so much for joining. Our ranks are growing a lot. We have a new Discord tag out there for provisional tithers. Let's say you don't want to join the Patreon for a month and you just want to throw us $5. Throw us $5. You unlock this cool tag on the Discord. You can brag about it and tell everyone you're better than them, because it's like, fuck, not everyone has it. Get after it.
Toasters sold separately.
Toasters sold separately. Cool, boys. Well, thanks for joining me, and we'll see you all on the next episode of Lorehammer. Adios.
Have a good night.